Take their seats, please. I call to order the meeting of the CUSD 201 Board of Education tonight, February 24th, 2015. We could have roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Here.
Ms. Caparelli?
Here.
Mrs. Charlton?
Here.
Mrs. Hancock?
Here.
Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mrs. Notbush?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Would stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is approval of minutes. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 13, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Thank you. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of the January 13, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the January 27, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 10th, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the closed session of February 10, 2015 regular meeting of the Board of Education as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Public comment, we have one card here. Rainey Hickey, please.
I'm Lainey Hickey, and I'm here on behalf of a growing number of parents concerned over the direction of PLCs. We would like for them to be reevaluated, to assess, to make sure that they're effective. Also, with that being said, it was presented to us that they would be reevaluated to determine if they were effective, and going forward, the frequency of them. And it was also told to us that if they were not effective, other measures could be taken in place. So at this time, it's not that we don't want something to continue the education of the teachers, but we feel that time might be better spent implementing what was learned in the PLCs to teach the children that, or another means be developed to help educate the teachers, and that in turn would trickle down to our students. After 2.5 years, we think it's enough time in which the frequency could change or something could be done altogether.
Or at least show how they're progressing and actually working.
That would be nice as well. That's all I have right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, then the chair will entertain a motion to, the consent agenda is next on the agenda. Any questions or comments? Okay, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Number 1, personnel recommendations. David Smith, head custodian at Miller School, and William Lewis, part-time custodian at Westmont Junior High School. Number 2, approval of student tour requests. Number 3, approval of donation. 4, approval of February 2015 expenditure report. And 5, ratification of January 2015 regular payroll.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is the presentation of monthly financial statements.
Okay, well, there's not too much exciting for the month of January. We received almost $185,000 from the state this month, and we have about $397,000 that we're waiting for, which, again, has been typical over the last several years. Revenues in the tort and ed fund are, comparable to the prior year average, and in that fund, we're waiting for a little over $170,000, or we received $170,000, and we're waiting on $248,000 from the state. And then a transportation fund, we're waiting on the second quarter categorical payment in the amount of $148,000. Again, this is where we've been over the last several years with the state paying late. And then in terms of expenditures in the ed fund, they're comparable to the prior year. And again, in the O&M fund, they're comparable to the prior year. And you can see from last year to this year, we're almost exactly at the same, we are exactly at the same point that we were then. And then transportation fund, again, those expenditures vary by the timing of receipts of invoices. And so we are current with where we need to be there as well. So lunch report is attached, investments. Also, our investment balance, continues to go down as we start utilizing that money to make payments. And typically, we start seeing our fund balances going down in anticipation of those taxes that will come in June. So nothing unusual. Any questions?
I just have one question. With the changes in Springfield, which have only been a couple months, have you seen any difference in the timing of when we're getting any money, or is it just pretty much the same thing?
No, it's pretty much the same thing. So, yeah, the biggest changes will be what happens with the budget. And since, the state income tax, that increase came off and doesn't appear to be going to be reinstated, really the biggest challenges will be for next year.
Yeah, okay. Do we, just as someone who does read the paper and kind of understands some of it, do we know if there's any decision, are those decisions been made, have those been voted on in Springfield or anything? So none of those have been voted on or anything?
No.
Do we have any updates on Senate Bill 16 or anything? Is that just tabled for now?
I think there's like another version that
Okay.
is being worked on. So.
Okay.
We heard it would be amended in some form, and then that'll start to circulate again, so.
Okay. Okay.
No, we haven't heard anything to date.
Okay, great. That's all I have. Thank you. Okay, anything else? Then the next item on the agenda is 2015 summer school programs.
Included in the board book are the summer school proposal for 2015, and for the most part, it's what we offered last summer. It's a comprehensive program, K through 12, offers opportunities for students who both maybe need some additional practice, additional support over the summer, but then also some enrichment opportunities as well for our students. For the pre-K, we actually partner with SACID and offer an opportunities for pre-K through SACID, and it's actually one of our early childhood teachers who ends up teaching that program. Once again, we'll be offering transportation for those students who need it, and on the registration form, the parents just need to request transportation, so we will be providing transportation. Because it's so similar to what we've done in the past, I didn't have the principals here, to answer the questions, but definitely if the board isn't comfortable moving forward tonight with it, we can invite the principals to the next meeting, and they can answer those questions you have.
I have just kind of a higher level question. How are we going to promote and advertise, and what are the things that we're going to do this year? I I know that we put out communications last year that were fairly regular, but it didn't seem that we had maybe quite the response that we could have. So I'm wondering, can we evaluate what we did last year and try to determine if there's any areas, that we might be able to?
I think one thing that's going to help us is the timing of parent-teacher conferences. And so in addition to, as soon as the board, approves going forward with the summer school program, then we'll finalize the registration forms, and then we'll start to, send that out electronically, but then definitely take advantage of parents who are coming for parent-teacher conferences, making sure that we put it in their hands. And then we can also put paper copies in student backpacks as well.
Yeah, this is much earlier this year.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, this is sooner, so,
Yeah.
and we, last year was kind of the learning process going through and all the dynamics, so the things that we learned from that, as an administrative team, we're working on and have already vetted a lot of those issues even in this proposal, so.
I think last year, because we weren't as early, some families had conflicts with vacation. And the one thing that we did work with families, we would prorate the fee when there was a fee if they could only commit to a portion of the summer school program. And so, that's something we can share with families as well. We're willing to work with them if they really want their child to participate.
Is the only way to register for the programs a paper form, or can you do it online?
We don't have anything set up, but I can certainly investigate that to see if we can get that put together.
Yeah,
I
doing it
know we've
online would
been-
be very beneficial.
We've been moving, to having more
Right.
things available through the portal, so
Sure.
maybe it's not this year, maybe we're just, not quite early enough, but certainly if we've worked out some of the kinks in other pieces or parts of the program, that would be sort of the next logical step, I think.
Sure. Sure.
And that improves visibility, it improves accessibility, it improves just the frequency with which a parent might see that those programs are available if they're logging in for any other reason, so it could be beneficial.
I have a couple questions following up on, like what Shannon was saying. I know that, like from where we sit, we're offering some of the same things that we've offered in the past. But I do want to make sure and ask that we make sure that the details of the class is really out there for parents, so that, like, if you've got a child moving up from one school to another, and, because I know that first year, I know we had a lot of people asking questions like, what exactly is this? And some of the jargon that maybe is used on a daily basis in the teaching environment might not.
Sure.
So any and as much information as we can supply to the families, I think that would be extremely helpful.
Sure.
And then my second question is, like, specifically with the high school, with AP. So we have just, like, for instance, jump to honors English. So if we have a student, what happens to a student who needs to take a class but they're out of town? Like, what happens in a situation like that? Because, as families, you try to schedule your vacations over the summer. What happens if there's a class only being offered at that, and it's specifically at the high school where it's something they need? What happens with that?
Then I would encourage the family to contact the high school.
Okay.
And I'm sure, knowing our high school administrators, that they'd be willing to work with the family.
Okay.
And so, there might be some things they can do electronically.
Okay.
That will help them with that transition.
Okay.
But definitely, I would have them contact the high school.
Okay. I mean, from where we're sitting, this is nice to have this much earlier than we've had in the past.
Yeah.
But I also know, like that sometimes people set things up way in advance. And so it just, if we see something like this, like that comes out, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, that's when we're gone. So I just started looking at that, especially when you're getting into the high school where there's classes that are getting them ready
Sure.
for AP classes, so. That's all I have.
I have one more question. Particularly for students who maybe need a little extra help. At parent-teacher conferences or somewhere in that one-on-one communication, is a teacher going to say to a parent, by the way, do you realize this is available? Because as much as we put things out, still everybody doesn't see. And I just wonder, we are such a small district. I know the high school does a lot of one-on-one with students, but those students are, approaching adulthood.
Right.
For the younger
Right.
grades, where it's really the parent who does everything, is there an opportunity, or is it appropriate? Can we encourage, teachers to really look at the programs that are available through the summer and identify students that would benefit from those programs? Because
Right, and that's actually what happens. Those students who are identified that really could benefit from being involved in that summer program, those families are contacted on several occasions and strongly encourage, even, and as we approach the start date, the building principals are reviewing who has registered and then reaching out again to make sure we get as many of those
That's
students involved as possible.
thank you.
Assuming that this, we're approving this, when will this start to go out then to the families?
Like, as I said, we'll update the registration form. We'll look into if we might be able to do something electronically for this year. But I would say that probably next week we'll be able to start getting that information out.
I guess if we can't register actually through the online portal, at least if there's a link there to the form and there's clear instructions on how to send the form in, that would sort of be the minimal electronic version, right?
Right.
The pseudo-electronic version.
Right.
We can't actually get it to work through our registration system.
Right.
I don't think last year, there wasn't any classes that were closed, basically. I mean, there was always space available, so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we'd work our hardest not to have to turn someone away because
Right.
of spaces, so.
Well, I would just like to say this is wonderful again to see such a wide range of opportunities for the students over the summer. So it makes me happy to see that. So thank you for that. Okay, any other questions or comments on that? Okay, the next item on the agenda then is the information about the school fees for 2015, 2016.
Yes, and you have lots of information there. You have a 9-year history of school fees for the district and what the percentage increase has been, any additions or changes to fees. Then you also have a comparison to our benchmark districts. And it is important to note that a lot of people have not done their fees yet. So, some of them have the 2014 14-15 numbers still. There were a couple that had approved theirs, but then you can see how we, what types of fees we have in comparison to other districts in the area. And so again, for the third year, we are not looking to increase fees. Really overall, there were 2 fees at the high school, the business ed fee and the foods fee that the high school asked be increased because of the materials that are used. And then there's a new fee for AP History, which is based on the consumables for that class. Breakfast, we're looking at an increase of 15 cents, and that's based on the cost of providing the breakfast and the new nutrition guidelines with the whole grains costing more. And then last year, we had a 1-to-1 fee, the $25 for the 6th grade, and now those students will be moving up to 7th grade, and the 6th graders will again continue to have Chromebooks. So we'll be adding that fee at the 7th grade, and it's remaining the same. And then we're looking, again, because this is our 3rd year in a row that we have not raised fees, we're looking at removing that discount of $25 for the 3rd and consecutive child. So, does anybody have questions?
I have one. So now that we've done this 1 year of the one-on-one, the Chromebooks, how is that going in terms of, from the financial stance? Is that,
So far,
Have you
it's
had any?
been going well. Yes, we've had a few incidences of, where kids have had to pay, for, I think, a deductible for some damage or things like that, some lost cords. We had a few court issues, but the manufacturer has worked with us. I spoke with Nadine too, where also, some of our Chromebooks, they've kind of updated that particular model. So, the ones that are, the new ones are even sturdier. So, yeah, I think overall, it's gone quite well,
Okay,
so.
okay, great, thank you.
Do you have any idea how many families we have that have the 3 consecutive children that are getting that $25 discount?
I don't, it's not that many. I mean, it's a very manual process.
Right.
Because we have to go through and manually identify those people. Some people are aware of it and they ask, we try and make sure, but otherwise we have to go through and identify. Where it becomes difficult is when families don't all have the same last name.
Sure.
And becomes difficult, so, and, yeah.
So what you're suggesting is that we eliminate
The
all
$25
for the third?
for the third and consecutive, that we just eliminate the discount.
Fine with me.
I always fought
think
against it,
was
but I'm not going to.
confusing, so, I mean, I
We
think
haven't
it
raised
just
the fees,
streamlines
so.
it.
Either.
Yeah, could you state that sentence out loud again? About
This will be the third year in a row that we have not raised fees.
Okay, just in case anyone didn't hear that the first time around. Okay. I mean, I wish it was easier to do something, and we've talked about that in the past, but,
Yep.
I've always sort of been a proponent of that $25 discount for the 3rd consecutive child. However, given that the fees aren't going up again this year, I have no issue with getting rid of it.
Agree.
any other questions about that then? Okay. So now we have our action items. So do you want to talk about the calendar,
Sure.
Kevin, the 2015?
At our last board meeting, again, we had 2 calendars for the board to consider, and the only real significant, if you can call it significant, was the placement of a PLC day. I think it was in February. But part of the feedback from the calendar committee was that, there was debate whether or not the 17th or the 24th as that start date. And 17th, is that too early when families are planning vacations and summer camps and those types of things? But then you're also trying to balance the length of the summer and student retention of knowledge and not trying to extend it too long. And so out of that discussion came kind of a compromise calendar B now where the staff start on the 22nd and the 23rd, or no, I'm sorry. 20th. Right, the 20th. And then the students then would start with their full day on the 24th, so they would start on Monday. And so, the board has those 2 options to approve, and when the motion is made, you'll have to indicate, which calendar, A or B. But I think is it safe to say B would be, we have a couple of calendar committee members.
Okay, are there any questions first before on the calendar at all?
No.
Okay, so I'm just going to go around and just say A or B so I know which one to ask for. Gary?
B.
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 I'll B.
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 All right, that's great. So then, if there's no other questions, Kevin, you didn't have anything else
No,
either?
that's it.
All right, then the chair will entertain a motion to approve calendar option B of the 2015 and 2016 school calendar as presented.
So moved. Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, great. So will this be put up in like the next 10 minutes?
Not about the next 10 minutes, but yeah, we should be able to get it posted tomorrow.
Okay, so this calls for the first day of school for the students being Monday, August 24th.
Correct.
Okay,
I guess while we're asking about, let me just ask a quick question. What about graduation days this year and the final school day this year? With the snow days, what are we looking at?
that's a good point.
We've had 3.
3.
So the
Yes,
final,
grade 3.
right, so the final school day is Tuesday, June.
Is it the 2nd, I think?
But we haven't moved either graduation day yet, right? Because we had said if there was one more.
Right, we
were
haven't-
gonna
we
move
haven't-
Second
graduation
is
day.
a Tuesday, the 3rd.
So it would be June 2nd, the Tuesday, because originally we were going to end on Thursday.
So June 2nd's the last day of school?
Right.
And then, were the graduations moved yet?
We haven't, the board, the last time we had the conversation, the board said they were comfortable keeping the graduations where they were, and so we said that we would take a look at that once we kind of got towards the end of February. So we've had one additional day.
Because as of right now, the high school graduation is set for the 27th, and the junior high is set for the 28th. So, I think didn't we say we were gonna talk about it in like March or something, if we were gonna change those?
Well, we were not really gonna talk about changing the high school. We were more
Just the
concerned about the
junior high.
junior high.
Right, the junior high was the one that you were concerned about.
But I know there was concern at the last meeting when we last discussed it that, we could end up having another one. And maybe you want to talk a little bit, Kevin, about the angst that is, when you're trying to determine whether, because there's a lot of conversation about how it's determined
Right.
whether or not we're going to have a day off school.
Sure, and, and it's obviously not an exact science. But, in DuPage County, the superintendents, we typically do have a conference call when those weather alerts start happening and have a discussion, and we take a look at, snow's a little bit, in one regard, snow's a little bit easier because there's a certain depth of snow and it makes transportation with the buses difficult. And then the cold is also something that we consider. And a lot of times it has to do with the high temperature in the morning and then also the wind chill. And typically, it's when that wind chill gets over minus 30, approaching minus 35, that's usually when, school will be canceled. When it's less than that, we try to keep our doors open, so. But it's several minds talking about it, and we also, have to take into consideration, for instance, we contract our bus service, so if the bus company can't get enough drivers, if the drivers can't start their cars to get into work to drive buses, that also has to figure into that discussion.
Thank you for that.
Would it be helpful to the board as far as the junior high graduation? I can talk to Mr. Jonak and find out at this point if we were to keep graduation on the same date, what the last day of attendance for the 8th grade would be. Because I think that's the concern, is the number of days that the 8th grade students end up missing
Right.
compared to other students.
Because they would miss 3 days. 4 days, 3 days.
What, Marie, I'm sorry, what is the date again?
Graduation is set for the Thursday, the 28th.
So they miss Friday,
May.
Monday, Tuesday, right?
So Friday, Monday, Tuesday.
3 days sounds like a lot. 4 somehow is way, way over the top. It's
Yeah.
almost a week then, right? I mean, I know it sounds weird, it's only 1 day, but, as an 8th grade parent, I can tell you that would be my jawline, I think. If there is another day, I think we have to move it. That's my opinion.
that's true.
So the last day of school, you're saying, is the 2nd.
Right.
And that's a full day.
That's
And that's a full day.
Has to be a full day.
So if the graduation could be Friday or Monday, depending upon how people feel, because we're not going to have any more snow days, right? Knock wood.
Kevin,
Every day,
Don't say.
every
I
day
know,
you
I know.
check off the calendar, the
I know.
percentages are in your favor
Right.
that you will be able to have school.
And it's
So-
spring in 3 weeks, so we're going to be good. But in seriousness, I mean, so is it, I had some memory that we said we're going to talk at the end of February, the beginning of March, as to,
Right.
yes, about the junior high. The high school is different. What is,
Well, I would like it pushed back as far as it's reasonable to do. I just don't know what all the parameters are as far as changing the date. I mean, I was not happy last year to have an 8th grader out of 5 days of their education. I just don't think that makes sense to me at that point in their schooling. so.
I agree. I agree. I agree. I mean, is a Monday night, June 1st possible for graduation?
You know, I think
I mean,
I think it's possible, I can definitely check with the junior high to make sure, But in terms of the facility, that time of year, I don't anticipate any conflicts.
All right, how does everybody
So are
feel?
we telling our community right now that the date might change?
Well, that's what
But-
what does everybody think?
I'm okay with that, but I know that, people in the community have, I know it's not as big as the high school graduation, when your son or daughter's graduating high school, but, you might have family coming in, you might have arrangements already made. I don't know how big of a deal it is on that level. I really haven't heard any conflict or anything like that. I agree with Joel. I don't want an eighth grader missing out on 4 or 5 days worth of education. That's still an important time in their life, unlike senior year where you've taken your tests, you're ready to move on in life. His eighth grader's just moving across the street. So it's important to keep that amount of time.
Well, my question was, that was my memory, that we were going to talk in March. So
I'm just concerned that
what is everybody,
that we're not telling our community that the date might change. That's my
well, that's what I'm
concern.
saying. Do we want to run that up the flagpole and have it at the next board meeting?
I do know that, I did have the conversation with John Jonak, junior high principal, and that's been, anybody who's contacted him about graduation, that's been the message, that this is the tentative date, it's subject to change.
All right, well, I think that's the message we need to send then, right?
Yeah,
That
okay.
we're going to look at it in,
Well, we have a meeting in 2 weeks. Are we comfortable
Yeah.
making a call March 10th-ish?
I think we have to.
Because I
do-
think by
do too.
then, the weather should
Right.
break. I mean, hopefully, by then.
Then I can.
Well, I think realistically, we've got 3 days. If you're worried about another day or something, we need to kind of consider pushing it back right now, just based on the 3 days. And that
But
way,
don't- but
that way
don't
if you get another day off, then you're not, you're already kind of at least partially accommodated for those days.
Yeah.
But we can't really vote on this until you talk to Mr. Jonak, right?
Correct.
Yeah, just,
So what would the Monday night, June 1st be something
Yeah,
that the
I
board
think
likes, or the Friday is just one day then?
one day.
change.
I would say Monday.
So,
well, I guess I would say that if we're going to be thinking about delaying it, I'd be delaying it 3 days then, whatever the length
Okay.
of the break is. That would just be my opinion. If we're talking about educational time, then if we're 3 days, we're 3 days. Okay, why are we saying if it's 3 days, let's only move it 1 day or 2 days? If it's 3 days, let's move it 3 days.
Are you thinking of doing it on Tuesday?
Yeah, I'm
well,
just,
I think the last day of school was the 29th,
right,
and so the graduation was the day before,
right.
the 28th. That's what the calendar had,
okay.
so
The last day was.
that's why I'm saying,
Oh, so you're saying 1 day less, because it would have been 1 day less for them anyway.
so it was set for the 28th. That's why I was saying for the
That-
for the
eighth grade, they
first.
would not have been in school, though.
Right,
So then the
because
eighth
eighth
graders
graders aren't in
aren't in
school,
school
and 1 day was the 7th and 6th graders are, yeah, okay. That's fine.
what- Yeah, okay. So does that, you can talk to John,
Yep.
and then we'll look at that,
And
and
we'll
then
let our community
definitely
know that our next meeting will have a,
Right.
March 10th. Okay, good, that's helpful. Okay. Then we'll move to the approval of the summer school programs. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the 2015 summer school programs as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes. And then the third one is the, about approving the student fees, which, have not gone up in 3 years? Okay. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the 2015-2016 student fees as presented.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call, please, Mrs. McMahon?
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Charlton?
Yes. Okay, the next item on the agenda is superintendent's report.
Included in the superintendent's report is that, can't remember, I think it was in January, the board passed a resolution to have a referendum question on the April 7th ballot, seeking permission to issue $19.7 million in bonds to address the safety and security needs at Manning, Miller, the Westmont Junior High and Westmont High School. And the month of March, we're going to start having opportunities to share information and have building tours for the community. And next Monday, we'll be at Manning at the PTO meeting in the community room to share information at the PTO meeting. And then we have, on March 11th, we'll have meetings at Westmont High School, and again, an opportunity to tour the building to share information about the referendum. And then we're going to have two meetings on March 18th, one at Manning, one at Miller. The same information will be shared at both buildings, but again, there will be an opportunity to tour the two schools so that when we are talking about some of the issues with safety and security for our buildings, it's easier for people to visualize those. And then, again, throughout the March, when we send out an email, and we'll get this posted on our website, we'll have a link to information about the referendum, but at the various PTO meetings throughout the month of March, we'll also present that information as well.
Is there any opportunity to do meetings that are not on school property? So for example, in the community room at Mays Lake, in the Park District or Senior Center community room? I mean, has any thought been given to, I just feel like people that aren't in the school community aren't as ready to rush into a school building to go to a meeting, and didn't know if there was an opportunity to have it, in a little more of a community-centered kind of a location.
I check with Larry Forsberg, see if the chamber.
Yeah, we can look at opportunities to do that.
There will be a presentation to the village board. The village came to our meeting to do the stormwater presentation, so we're doing a presentation Thursday, March 5th. So that's like this, televised, so that's one.
That's one good example of sort of not on school property.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
But the
yeah, we
senior
can look
center,
at
you're
some of
right,
those opportunities.
it's a great idea. I mean, the senior center over there that has their get-togethers, I think, weekly or twice a week, and, yeah.
Sure.
That's a good idea.
The one thing I know that we did want to add this time was those tours, so people can see them, and so hoping that some people who, for the families who are in the schools all the time, what they're like. So one of the things is to hopefully try to reach out to the community and see if people want to, come in and see what it is we're talking about. Sometimes, who was telling me that you went on the 8th grade tour and some of the parents, was that you?
That was me, yeah.
Yeah, that the parents didn't even know what,
Hadn't been in the building before.
hadn't been in the high school, and
Right.
they hadn't known what that's like with the half walls and stuff, so.
You mean the non-walls?
The non-walls, well, half or non, or movable. Okay.
Yep, that's
Great.
it.
Thank you. See that up there. Okay. Anything else, Kevin?
Yep, that's it.
All right, then, are there any board reports?
I had, I guess, a question or a statement I'd like to ask Kevin to kind of clarify a little bit. In the recent Westmont Neighborhood magazine that came out a couple weeks ago, it talked about our early childhood center getting an award. And I know that, the board went to great lengths to improve our early childhood center and make it better, so I was wondering if you could tell the community about the award and what it's based on and so forth. Sorry, I know I should have brought it up to you beforehand, and apologize, but I figured it was a good thing that you would have the answer off the top of your head, so.
I don't know about the time of that, no. Our early childhood program was recognized by the State Board of Ed for our early childhood program, and it's based upon the curriculum that we have and the services that we provide the students. And so based upon that criteria, we received a recognition from the State Board of Ed.
That's great. Is there any way we can promote that more out? Could we put a blast out on email? Can we get it in the other newspaper? Just something to, it was in the neighborhood magazine, which is great, but if we could have it anywhere else, it was.
Big news.
Yeah, it was big news, that's
Yeah.
correct.
Right.
It was a huge improvement for the community and for the for the district, so I think it would be important to get it out there any way we can.
Right, and I did talk to Linda Cloudwater, and she is planning on getting that information out
Okay.
to our school families.
And I think this is a perfect example of the small giants. I mean, we've been able to take our early childhood program, have a state-of-the-art facility, and now we're being awarded these things about the programs themselves. I mean, I think that just speaks volumes.
Based on academics, and it was based on
Right.
teacher ability, and
Yeah.
there was a third criteria, I don't remember what it is, but,
And I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
that We should get banners and march around. No, I mean, this year, it's just great, and.
right? People need to know it, people
Right.
need to know it,
Right,
so.
I agree, so.
So sorry, Kevin, didn't mean to spring that on you.
No problem, no problem.
Okay, are there any other board reports? I know one of the things that I'm going to bring up is just the future date is the high school spring musical is coming up, March 6th and 7th at 7 o'clock and March 8th at 2 o'clock, and that is the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee. That is the musical this year. So you can contact the high school for tickets for that. Seniors will be free. The Manning Fun Fair is on March 6th at 5 o'clock at Westmont Yard. I know there are some opportunities for volunteers to help out.
6 o'clock.
6 o'clock, okay, sorry, thank you. There are opportunities for people to help out if anybody, would like to do that. And there's a board meeting March 10th at 7 o'clock here at Westmont Village Hall. Is there anything else that anybody can think of off the top of their head? Is Manning having a,
The book night is
Book
Thursday
night?
night, right? Barnes and
at
Noble.
Barnes and Noble? Barnes and Noble, okay. Okay. I think that covers about everything, all right? So, all right, the chair will entertain a motion to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining, personnel issues, student discipline, and probable litigation.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
At roll call, please, sorry.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mrs. Notbush?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Caparelli?
Yes.
Mrs. Hancock?
Yes.
Mr. Turtle?
Yes. And there will not be a vote after closed. Thank you.